Sorry about this. What's going on with this today? Without further ado, we have the amazing Tony DiCello with us today. And I know many of you have been counting down the days for Tony to join us. And I know, Tony, I assume that everybody knows you because you're you. But I thought if we could start for maybe someone who hasn't had the privilege of hearing you before, if you could give them just a little bit of background about you in the industry first.
Great. I got my license in 1975, and I sold real estate till 2000 in Boulder, Colorado. And in 2000, I went into coaching realtors, and I started off with Mike Ferry and then helped Diana build maps. And I've done like 25,000 coaching calls with my client base was pretty much top realtors. Today, those realtors, I still talk to them and they're doing 2,000-3,000 closings a year. So the industry's changed. When I got in the industry, you got a parking space and a plaque for 15 closings a year, not a month or a day, but a whole year.
Right. It's definitely changed.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Yeah, the numbers are a whole lot different than they used to be.
Yeah, which that's one of the things, and we'll talk about this, but I love talking to you because you always challenge everybody to think bigger. Because sometimes we don't even think about those numbers being that big, that it's not even possible.
Right.
Yep. Let's start, Tony, if you're okay with this, on just your take on kind of the industry and the market and what you're hearing and seeing. You talk to so many different top agents from around the country, but kind of where we are now today.
Okay. I would say pretty much for top agents, most of them are saying they haven't seen a difference. And right now it seems like it's in waves. I talked to a couple people last week that said they're back to, in certain areas, they're back to getting multiple offers. Houses are selling quickly. People kind of have absorbed interest rates. I think realtors are doing a better job of selling the idea of interest rates. And the greatest way of selling interest rates is stop talking about interest rates.
Totally. Yeah.
And just talk about payments. It's a payment issue. It's not an interest rate issue. And the idea of, married to your house, dating your interest rate. And I think people are finally getting to understand that if I want to buy, interest rates got nothing to do with it. If it goes down, I always can get it refinanced. Even going down to 3%, people refinance 5, 6, 7 times. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think right now the market is made for two people. The ones that have a model and a system for developing the business and are treating this as real estate, or going back to what Gary said in the Shift book, it's not about the market, it's about what you do. So everybody that's not contemplating the market in any way, just going out and doing the things they're supposed to do every day, are the people that are not being affected by, quote unquote, the shift. And I'm not sure it's a shift anymore. I have found very few places that prices are depreciating. Are you seeing in your market, are prices year to date, year over year, last year down? Average price down?
Not in most of our markets. If you guys put in the chat if yours are, but most of ours, at least in what I see in Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, no. In Charleston, no way. They're still the exact same.
So if we're in an appreciating market, are we in a buyer's market or are we in a seller's market? Or do we even know what market we're in? But here's the thing.
We're still in a seller's market, right? Because we're less than 3 months on the market. So that's still considered sellers.
Yeah, it's still pretty much a seller's market. If you think about interest rates, quote unquote, could be in a buyer's market. But it's just a matter of changing the thinking about, like we talked about, just changing the way you think about interest rates. So we're in a real estate market. Let's call it a real estate market. And we're all realtors. So we now all have a what? What do we have in front of us?
Opportunity.
I'm gonna say, you took it right out of my mouth, Dana.
That's us. Opportunity. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to be powerful realtors. We have an opportunity to go do whatever we want in the real estate market. We can make a lot of money. We can do a lot of things. But right now, the market's sitting right in front of us. And we're talking about rates. We're talking about listings down, sales down. We're not talking anything about opportunity. If listings are down by 30%, that means there's still 60% of the listing market still available, 60, 70%. The question we got to be asking ourselves is, what do we do activity-wise to reach our goals? If your goal is to make 500,000, what do you need to do to make 500,000? If your goal is to make 3 million, what do you do to make 3 million? We're in the real estate business. Okay, so we have to just stop talking about real estate as real estate. Let's start talking real estate as a business. Business is we run models and systems, we develop our skills, and then we go hit our goals. So any thoughts on that comment? You can tell me I'm crazy. Give me some feedback on what you think. The little microphone, if you click off of that, the red goes off and you can talk. So if you want to say something, or you can put it in the chat, but I'd rather have a conversation.
You guys go ahead if anybody has anything first.
Are we thinking like that? Or what do you think is the challenge we're facing as realtors, or you're facing as a realtor, that's saying, I'm not hitting my numbers because this is happening?
Hi, Tony. I'm Stephanie. I have found, I've been in the business 19 and a half years, and I found myself not having to have my scripts as internalized. The number of people I have to talk to every day has changed. And so I think just getting back to the basics, when really, if I just showed up the last 3 years, I sold what I wanted to. That's the obstacle I have thus far this year, is not getting back to what I learned when I started, and then I lost having to use that.
That's a great point, Stephanie, and I really appreciate you saying that. So even though we're still quote unquote, and whatever kind of market you want to call this, the difference between this and what was happening a year and a half ago, you could do more accidentally than you needed to do, being more specific in what you're doing, your activities.
So true. Yep.
And the words coming out of our mouth, and now we're calling them conversations. Our conversations have to be, give me some thoughts. Our conversations have to be what?
Purposeful.
Purposeful. Okay, everybody write that down. Our conversations need to be purposeful.
I think they mostly need to be questions.
Okay, mostly questions. Right. So if I'm on the phone prospecting, or whatever you want to call that, calling my database, what's my purpose?
To find out how I can help them.
Yeah.
One, to help them. Okay.
I was going to say to find out who they know that might need my help.
Who they know. Okay.
And set an appointment.
What'd you say?
Set an appointment?
Set an appointment. So that's the purposeful side. Now, one thing I am learning, especially listening to realtors and especially listening to their video emails, they're doing more educating than I've ever seen. And I just read a book, a rewrite of a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine.
Oh, I didn't know they rewrote that.
Yeah, he passed away of cancer and his daughter rewrote the book. It's about 5% different. It's 95% the same. But the big thing they talked about is selling is now educating. It's educating your people to the world around them. Because right now, people, and if you go back to the shift book, this is what happened in the last shift, is people were getting too much misinformation. Not that they weren't getting enough information, they were getting too much misinformation. And since we are the professionals, our job is to do what?
Give them the
Tony.
guidance that they
Yeah.
need
Yeah, give them
along
the
the way in a
information they
challenging
need.
market.
They need the facts. They need to understand that how to sell a house. They need to understand when you buy a house, it's about the payment. It's never about the interest rate. What can you afford? Now, here's a little thing. How much appreciation have you seen? Here's another information thing. Very few people are thinking about this one. What's your market up average price wise or median price wise, whichever one you guys use in MLS? How much is it up over last year?
Ours in
They're all kind of-
Indianapolis is about 11%.
Yeah,
11.
Cindy,
Yeah.
I was gonna say they're all kind of all over the place, but I would say between 8 and 10, 11 is probably,
Okay.
yeah, 10 to 12. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, so you're now talking to people, buyers. And buyers say, I don't want to buy because of interest rates. What kind of discussion should you be having with them based on what we just learned?
It's not
Okay,
about
here-
the rate. And, Gary's been saying too, it's also about the amount of interest that you pay over time, not necessarily the rate.
Yep.
So,
Here's
ahead.
an interesting point. Here's an interesting point. Houses are up 10%. What's the average sales price in Indianapolis?
It was like 256. I just ran something yesterday on it.
256. Thank you very much for that information. That's wonderful. So now that I know two things, I know the prices are up 10% to 11% over last year. Even though, quote unquote, it's a crazy market, bad market, whatever terms you want to throw on it. What do I know that I should be telling a buyer about buying a house right now?
I literally just had this conversation about an hour ago with a person who was renting. We talked about how that over the course of the owning the house, that your house appreciates on average anywhere from 5 to 7% on a normal average. So if you were sitting at a 7% interest rate, that every year that would keep up because of just the natural progression of real estate increasing in value.
Yep. And if they don't buy today, what do they, for the next 12 months, if they don't buy today for the next 12 months, how much will they lose?
on average, 10% right now.
10%. So on a 200,
Mhm.
they're going to lose 250. It's a $256,000 house, 10%, they're gonna lose $25,600.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question that screws them to the wall. Sorry to say it that way, but here's the thing. By not buying today, you're gonna lose $25,600 in equity. Let me ask you a question, Dana. Do you and your husband think you can save $25,600 between now and next year, end of the year,
No,
in 1 year?
most people
So-
know.
So here's the thing, you are now falling behind the market. You can't save what you gave away in earning. How's that for a conversation?
So Tony, let's just out of curiosity. Okay, so what if somebody said to that, well, what if I pay 256 today, but I don't know if I'm overpaying or not in this market. And because I'm having this real life conversation right now. So this is what I'm thinking. So how do I know if I'm overpaying? And what if I pay 256 today and then next year it drops and the next year it drops and now I've overpaid because they were selling it for 200 4 years ago.
They were selling it for 400. So let me ask you a
200.
question. So let's go back. If you, tell me a little bit about the buyer. Is this their first time buyer?
No, second.
Second time buyer. Okay. Let me ask you, Dana, did your parents buy a house when you were a kid?
Yes.
Do you have any idea what they paid for it?
No.
So what do you think a house sold for 30 years ago?
Way less than today. Probably
Yeah. So
a lot less.
maybe they paid $40,000.
I was going to say 30, 40. Yeah.
Okay, so 30, 40. 30 years later, we've gone through some terrible downward trends, yes?
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, we just went through one 12, 13 years ago, right?
Yes.
It's not worth 30. It's not even worth 40. In fact, you can't buy it for 100. You can't even buy it for 200. So if you look at real estate over a long period of time, does it go up or does it go down?
Goes up.
Even when it goes down, does it stay down?
No.
It eventually comes back up and more, huh?
Yep, that's right.
So if you live in this house for 10 years, I'll even ask, how long do you think you will live in this house?
Yeah, I would think that they would stay in for 10 years at least.
10 years. So let's say it goes down to 240 and in 10 years it's at 300. What have you just lost?
Nothing. Yeah, you've
You
gained.
haven't lost a
That's
thing,
great.
and you made $44,000.
Yeah. Am I the only one? Am I the only one that's hearing people worried about that? I mean, that's right.
Yeah,
It's happening. Yeah.
And that's where those slides that Jason Abrams gave us, that we need to be pulling those out and showing the trend line of the average appreciation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree, Craig.
And here's the thing. So let me ask you a question. If you could give me nothing and I give you $44,000 over the next 10 years, and I could make that deal every day, how often would you make that deal?
Every day.
Cool. So you'd make it every day, but not today. Is that what you're saying?
That's good.
Because what do the questions eventually do if asked correctly?
Lead them in the right direction for knowledge to make the correct decision.
Right.
And it
And
keeps them in
self-discovery.
lodge. Yeah, self-discovery. Yeah. And Angie, that's right. And I was gonna say, Tony, you do a really good job of like even that little role play keeps you in logic and out of the emotional side of it.
right. And here's the thing. If she said, I wouldn't take the $44,000, is that a logical answer?
No.
So it eliminates illogical answers because their only answer is what? Yes. So she
Yes.
says yes, and I'm saying, so what you're saying to me, Dana, is you really need to buy a house today, isn't it?
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's
So-
why we gotta set purposeful appointments, because we don't get to
Yeah.
have depth of conversations when we're at the grocery store or if we're at a party or something like that.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So like if you go to a party or a grocery store, your only goal is to get what?
The appointment.
No, their name and their name,
Oh.
the information.
Gotcha.
So you can you can have a conversation with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And these conversations, and I like the idea we're calling them conversations, because we have to kind of push them to where we want them to go. And one thing Diana taught me is never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
That's good, you guys. That's great.
So do you think the questions I asked Dana, do you think I knew what the answer was going to be? Yeah. And then people go, well, what do I say next? Then the next job we have as salespeople, as business people, is to listen to the answer, because the answer will usually give you what?
The next question.
Yeah. How do people go, how do people have all these scripts memorized? They don't. They listen to the question and people keep telling you where they're going.
Yeah.
Telling you how they're thinking, what's going through their head. And you have to know the numbers. Somebody said that. Yeah, you have to have an understanding of the market. And if you have, plates, little, whatever you have that you can use, that all helps. And then just practice, how do I get those numbers out to people? Because really, every time you look at numbers, you should say, how do I use these to make a transaction happen? How do I use these to get a listing? How do I use these to get a buyer under contract? How do I use the information I have so that you can look like the economist of choice or look like the professional? And let me ask you, how many realtors that you're competing against will have that kind of a conversation with somebody?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. That's right,
Not a
Patty.
lot. So when you start calling people, I used to hear it a lot from my clients, especially with FSBOs and expireds. If you ask a lot, or by asking a lot of questions, you're going to get this kind of a comment. Nobody's ever talked to me like this. Because everybody that gets on a line with a expired says what? What are they going to do? They're going to, let me tell you what I'm going to do to sell your house. I'm going to do this, and 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 I'm going to do this. And you're going, wait, how long will you be in this house? Did your parents ever own a house? Did you ever watch appreciation over a period of time? So go back, that last chat, go back to that. They only know that the 7 and 8 market. What are they waiting for? Who put that in the chat?
Cindy.
Yeah, I was trying to get off mute. Yeah, a lot of people, and you even hear it on TV that, oh, the house prices are going to go down, and so I don't want to buy while the high. I want to wait until the market comes down like it did in 2007, 2008. And I try to explain to them that was historic, and it was a completely different set of circumstances.
It wasn't historic. It was completely different. What's the difference between today and then? One thing. What's the one thing that's different between today and the last shift? One thing.
The last
Equity.
shift, the banking crisis.
We caused the last shift and this shift.
Okay, so what was the difference between the last shift specifically? Specifically, what was the difference?
Foreclosures.
One word. What was the difference in one word?
Foreclosures.
Foreclosures,
No?
Stephanie said. Karen, what were you gonna say?
I said inventory.
One word. Equity.
Bank.
Equity.
Equity.
Yeah,
Oh,
nobody
I
had
said
any
that
then.
earlier.
Nobody had equity. Everybody has equity.
Good
The
job,
average person
Cindy.
has 46% equity. Am I gonna have to give my house away?
No,
No, no, no. I just talked to a realtor in Austin. The guy hadn't made a house payment for 2 years. So he paid all his back pay. When he sold it, he paid all his back payments, all the penalties, all the legal fees, because it was a quote unquote, it wasn't a foreclosure, but it was treated like one. He still walked away with 30% of his equity. What happened if the price of the house in 2008 went $1,000 down, $1,000? They went from equity to no equity. And if it went $5,000, they went from bringing $5,000 to the closing. Nobody's going to have to bring money to the closing. There's 26 million people that have an interest rate of 3.5 and below. The average house has 46% equity. How painful are they about selling the house?
Not at all.
Not at all. It's a decision. It's not a pain point. That
Yeah.
last market doesn't exist. That last market went because everybody bought with no money down.
Yeah.
Every time. So here's the thing. When somebody says, I'm going to wait till it comes down. So if you don't own a house in 5 years, so if you don't own a house by February 8th, 2028, and they're worth 110,000 more than they are today, are you going to be okay with that?
no,
Do you
because
think I know the answer to, do you think I know the answer to that question? But that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And it's going to be more, it's going to be created by inventory. Which, now think about this. We have a shortage of inventory, quote unquote. Builders are selling houses, the hedge funds by the hundreds. Doesn't that sound confusing to you?
why are they doing that?
Because they can't sell them.
Yeah.
We have a shortage of inventory and builders are giving away houses. So if I were a realtor, what might I do?
Look to push the
Go
new
find-
construction.
Go find a builder to represent.
Or if nothing else, just go find a builder and tell me what you're going to do to sell a house. I got 50 buyers that are looking.
Yes, Stephanie, Stephanie had a good one too.
What did she say? I was just looking
She
for a sheet of
said-
paper. I'm just looking for a sheet of paper to a builder who's going to sell me 5 houses at a discount and cover the rent for the first 2 years to make sure I don't lose a dime in rent.
Wow. Because what,
And I
they have
didn't-
too much
I didn't call-
inventory?
Yeah, I didn't call them. They called me.
Wow.
How many of you have been in a builder's model home in the last 3 weeks? Well, they're not giving them away, but they're making some fairly decent deals. People go, well, interest rates are so high. Tell the builder you don't want any options. You want what?
Interest rate
words.
buy down.
Buy down. Get me, I want a 3-year buy down at 4.5. If they got houses to sell and they're calling people to sell them, you need to go in and push their buttons. Our personal builder just off 37,000 off and buying down our rate. Hello? We're looking for deals.
I told him thank you and then signed the contract.
They may go down even more. I bought the last rental out of the last market. I bought it with a $55,000 discount on a $400,000 house. I bought it for $350,000, and today it's worth $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going, well, what's wrong with the house? No.
Mm-hmm.
Those builders, they can't afford to sit on houses because they need to do what with that money? Get rid of it and build more houses.
Yeah, they've got it. They're on to the next with it.
Yeah, they got that money needs to keep moving.
Yeah.
Can't stand still. Well, what about the houses they can't sell? Well, I bet you if they build houses for 200,000 less, they might sell. I mean, in Boulder, we ended up when interest rates were 18%, people were building 400 square foot condos. They had a $900 house payment in the 80s. But you know what? Somebody could get them in for $900 instead of paying rent. You could live in a 400 square foot condo.
Mm-hmm.
So there's opportunity out there. Where are we looking? And what messaging are we sending between people? Like the person that just had that offer, I'd let everybody in the office know this builder is doing this with houses. All of you get your buyers out there.
Tony, we talk a lot about in a shift and in a balanced market, and this has been so good to separate I think to differentiate would be a better word between 07, 08 and now, because I feel like I have that conversation on a weekly basis with agents, because exactly like, I can't remember, was it Cindy or Patty, whichever one of you said the objections to overcome that, because people, I think, it was Jason Abrams that just said, in the absence of leadership, people listen to whoever is the loudest. And that's what the consumers, that's what our clients have been doing. And so when we've talked a lot about separate the difference between the agents who will go take market share in a shifting market versus the ones that will lose market share in a shifting market, to me, it's like that's why I keep saying it's like going out and interpreting the market to your people so that they understand this stuff. Because when you're not doing that, they're just listening to the media who's just trying to get a click or a hit or a view or whatever, you know?
Yep. Just remember, you guys are all doing enough business. You're no longer a realtor. Don't act like a realtor. Stop thinking like a realtor. You're a business person running a business, which could be a huge business. You know, you've got family reunion coming up. Just go look at the top 10. Bet you everybody in the top 10 is going to be, this is GCI. This is not gross sales.
Yep.
5, 10, 12, $15 million in gross commission income. Can be done. Can be done every day.
Tony, what are some of the things that you see that set those people apart from the ones that aren't doing that? Because I mean, you've coached the Lokens and I mean, so Peter Chabris, I mean, so many who've had, I don't even know, who've had such high GCI. What would be the different, like, what are some of the key things that stand out to you that you're like, man, they're different?
Well, and I started when I when I first started coaching Peter, he didn't even do 25 closings. So one thing that Peter did with his sparkling personality, and he'll tell you, but anyway, he was consistent about lead generation. And everybody, all people doing well have systems for creating leads. Many years ago, Gary told us if you want to net 1 million, you have to have 13,000 people in your database. Well, the average person in Gary's mastermind group probably has 100, would you say 100,000 average?
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that does 3,000 closings has 350,000 people in his database.
Wow.
How do you do that? One word. We couldn't do it in the past, but we can do it today because of technology.
Yep.
And they do so many transactions. They have so many people on their team. They all lead call 3 hours a day. There's 100 of them. So they're calling 300 hours a day. So they're making 9 or 10 contacts an hour, 10 contacts an hour times 300. They're making 30,000 contacts a day. So I don't care if whatever you're doing, you've got to talk to enough people. And to me, what they're finally figuring it out is you don't need to talk to as many people. You just need to have a conversation with that 100,000 in your database. And if you're watching what Peter's doing, Peter started that idea where he's touching them more with information. In fact, he just sent me, he's doing something at family reunion on that. He just sent all his clients a letter saying, you're only hearing the noise. I'll put it in Dana's words, you're only hearing the noise. And it's my responsibility. And I've come to the conclusion, I really need to be giving you valid information on what's happening in the market.
Such a great idea.
And he wrote him a letter and he said, I'm just going to have to talk to you a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever watch his video emails are great. Peter is just Peter. I think the best video emails I've ever seen are just people being themselves, telling you what's happening in the market. And he was the first one to come up with the idea of saying, this is a 67-second video. People are going to watch because it's only what? 67 seconds. Yeah. So they're doing a great job of getting more business out of their database. They're skilled. Lance's team has been role playing now. They're on their 4th year. They role play an hour a day. And just on the listing side, they've gone from like a 37% conversion rate as a team to over 75% conversion rate as a team.
Wow.
This is not the main agent. This is the team. Each team member has a goal to take 20 listings a month. Now they do have ISAs that help them do the lead follow-up. But just get your skills up so you can have conversations rather than not so powerful scripts and dialogues. And you just got to do it every day. Every day, it's the same thing every day, every day. The biggest challenge in this business is repetitious boredom. Now, I've got a client, he's with Keller Williams, his name is Jeff Quinton. Last time I talked to Jeff, about a year ago, he has not missed a day of lead generation since January 2nd, 2000.
Wow.
The only difference is back then he was probably doing 250 days a year. Today, probably even, I'm not even sure he's doing 150 days. Why? Well, his team's big enough that they do the 250 days.
Mm-hmm.
And he mostly spends time now looking for people for his team. So he's in the HR business, not the real estate business.
You know, and Tony, I think that's a point that newer agents, no matter how many times you tell them about the repetition and they need to lead generate and such, they just don't quite seem to get it. But then when they realize, oh, I don't really have a lot of business going on. And then you ask them, well, have you done, you know, your calls every day and have you followed up at a high level? And it's the same every time. They're just not diligent and persistent with their daily duties. So that I just feel like we can't say enough, especially to the new agents in this industry. They expect it to fall in their lap. And maybe the last year and a half to 2 years, a lot of that has very well been, you know, the case. But since we're in this different market and going into the shift, they're really going to need to be purposeful, or a lot of those agents, we're going to see a lot of them drop back out of the business again, that we do every time we get in these cycles.
Yep. I follow a couple of market centers I'm a partner in, and I get their daily report. It's basically, I wouldn't hire any new because they're 1 for 1 or 1 for 2. 1 in, 2 out, 1 in, 1.5 out, 1 in, 1 out. The best you can do is a fair trade across.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, right now it's basically this. I hate to say this to you, but here's the truth about the market. You just make the decision off of this piece of information. If you don't do the things you need to do, I'd go get a job now. I'd leave the real estate business. You don't have a chance because we're doing less deals. So there aren't as many for everybody to do. And the ones that are being done by the ones that are skilled and do this every day. So if you don't want to go out and throw 1,000 pitches today, don't be a pitcher. You know, I don't know what else to say. There is no, Linda McKissick has said this, I can't remember how many times she said it. There's nothing or no one to save you in this market.
Yep.
This market sits squarely on your chest. So if you're not making any money, there's only one place to look. That's where? In the mirror.
The mirror.
So this is a mirror market because people are making money. Here's the thing. We've got 1.6 million realtors. We don't need more than 300,000 or 400,000. Let's not hire any more new people. We don't need any more new people in real estate. And the other thing I'm learning too is new people, you either give them the program exactly to run and they run it. You know, sitting down with a new person and say, let's do a business plan. No, we don't need to do that. You want, how much money do you want to make? What's always the answer? 100,000. Here's how you make 100,000 in 6 months. Here's how you make 100,000 in 9 months. Here's how you make 100,000 in a year. Here's the things to do. You do them every day. And you only, at the end of every day, you only have 2 words that you say. What are the 2 words? Did you do today? What are the 2 words? Did you do everything you're supposed to do today? And I only want 1 word out of those 2 words for an answer. Yes or no? No. Just 1 more day before you start making any money. Here's the list. Do everything on the list today. Did you do it? No, you're not going to make any money. 3, did you do it today? No. Why are you here? What's your goal for real estate? Want to make a lot of money. Oh. Did you do the actions to make a lot of money? No. I'm confused. Your mouth says one thing, your actions say another. And unfortunately, I only can believe your actions. So right now you're saying you don't want to make any money in real estate.
Tony, you remember that KW Connect video that you and Diana did with the ups and the downs in your business, and the consistent lead generation keeps those ups and downs from happening? You remember that one?
I barely remember my name,
Okay,
but
well, it was just one of the, probably the video, it was probably the video I showed the most to people because, if you do have that schedule and you consistently lead generate, because you said what tends to happen is you lead generate and you get busy and then you're working those deals and next thing you know, those deals are closed and then you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have any business again. So then you start lead generating again. And that's why you have the ups and the downs in the business, and you teaching that just really stuck with me because you can, now this market's a little more challenging, but still it comes down to doing consistent lead generation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, the market is not, I'll say it's challenging to an extent, but we can overcome the challenge by consistency of doing the things we're supposed to do and the skill at which we do those things consistently with. If you're skilled enough, this market's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Because these people are they're easier to get them to do something, but they're listening to the loud voices out there, and we're not, it's no different than Gary being mad at everybody in his group. It was about 7, 8 years ago. He just looked at the group and said, there's a thing called Angie's List, and Angie's List should not be in existence because that was your job.
I remember that.
Your job. And Angie's List is making millions and millions of dollars. That is your money because you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be so pushy here, but everybody on this call, we're in a position where we got a chance to blow the market apart and take so much market share. But it's just, it is a challenge, but we can overcome the challenge by growing our skills, and we can overcome the challenge by being consistent in what we do every day. And if you don't hear that 100 times at family reunion in the next weeks or so, then do what they say. Don't do what I just said. I have a feeling you might hear that more than once if you're going to be
Tony,
there.
I just heard from Mark King that 32,000 agents NAR dropped just in the month of January by 32,000 agents alone. And so if we think about all the ones that are going to get out that are just doing their mom or their cousin or whoever every year, I mean, that frees up so many more transactions for those of us that are actually in this for the long haul. And I remember, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember, Rachel said, let them go. I remember something Gary said one time, like always do the math on that. So if 32,000 got out of the business in the month of January, and let's just say that they each averaged 3 transactions, which is probably on the high side. I mean, that's almost 100,000 units and deals that free up for the rest of those. And Gary, I remember him one time, he shared with us to prove a point to everybody that and I almost did this, but I didn't. But not that there's anything wrong with Home Depot. Let me preface that. But it challenged us as leaders to go lead our meetings and go get a Home Depot apron and wear the apron into the meetings and say, if you don't do these things every day, then you might just go on down the street to Home Depot and this is what you'll look like, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you got in the business to be a real estate agent and a real estate business owner and you aren't doing the activities, so you're right in line with that. And there's just so much opportunity.
Yep. And the other thing I would do is I would definitely in this time grow my database. In fact, I still believe right now that I'd do farming. I would do farming as a nurture, not as a old time geographic farm.
Okay, will you explain the difference for someone who may not know that really quickly?
Okay. Well, in the old days, farming would be you'd touch them 6 or 8, 10 times a year, and you'd touch them with garbage, not real great marketing. So here's why I say that. I buy a Boomtown lead. I don't know if I'm going to buy Boomtown leads anymore, or whatever they're going to be called now that they're gone. But if I buy a lead, what am I buying? Somebody tell me what I'm buying.
Contact information.
Right? To do what with them?
add them to your database and nurture them.
For how long?
Well, if they're from an internet lead, a long time. I mean, 6
Right.
to 18 months.
There you go. So I'm meeting some people new. I have their address and phone number, and I'm going to nurture them for 6 to 18 months. And I get the privilege of writing a check for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. I go down the street and I go into a subdivision of 3,000 homes. I have their address. I can get their name from public records. I can start getting their phone numbers. I can start knocking on their doors and talking to them. I get 3,000 people in that subdivision. I nurture them 50 times a year with valuable information and education about really what's happening in the real estate market. And it costs me $0 to acquire the names, a little bit of time.
So smart. Yep.
So, we didn't like waiting. We didn't like waiting, a year to get a farm up and running. But today, the business is so much different. People are waiting a year. They're just starting earlier because technology opened that door for the wait. So we're really not. Gosh, I just lost my train of thought. We're really not farming them. All we're doing is nurturing them into a relationship. So that you're getting all those people for free and you're nurturing them into a relationship. And once you got a relationship with them and you want more people, just go get another chunk and another chunk and another chunk. Kenny Klaus has made millions and millions and millions of dollars by just getting all the zip code farm. But that's not a farm, it's a database of 20-some thousand people that he nurtured for probably 20 years now.
Yeah, I mean, Gary sat right there 2 years ago at Mega Camp and told us, if you want to grow your database, go farm a neighborhood, go add 3,000 homes to your database. I mean, that's the quickest way to do it. And the thing that you said about the leads, whether it's Boomtown or Realtor.com or whatever, the trends are that they're continuing to go up, 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 up for what people are paying for the price of leads. I mean, it's going to continue to just get higher.
Yep. So.
Okay, we do have a random last question for 3 minutes. Angie, we'll go with yours, which is a good one. What investments are you seeking out right now? Multifamily, storage units, just good old I'm assuming long-term rentals.
Long-term rentals,
Tony,
yeah.
Tony, what are you investing in? You invest in all sorts of stuff, I know.
Yeah, I'm just buying houses.
Yeah.
I'm starting to look. I've been calling on new homes now for a few months. I'm finally starting to get people to call me back. So here's the thing. Thinking about investment, why don't you guys put together a group of people in the office that want to buy investment houses? Go to a builder as a group and say, look, we're here to buy 15 houses. What kind of deal can we get? All 15
we just had this conversation.
Walk in at once. They're selling them to hedge funds. Why shouldn't they be selling them to us instead? Because those hedge funds are terrible landlords. They're brutal. They're brutal landlords, and they don't give a damn. I mean, to be so blunt, but they don't care about the people at all. It's all about the money. So give me
Thank you so much.
Give me a couple of ahas before we leave, though. I want to make sure that
I'll jump in. Just thanks for answering that question about investing. But the aha is always just remember the opportunity that's in front of you, and you got to recognize it and then just push through there. So it's always good. You got to get back to the skilled market, but the aha is just keep that skills in front of you and the opportunities. Just keep your eyes open for them.
Yep.
I think my big aha is about how you talk to FSBOs and expireds, asking them questions rather than touting what you can do.
Yep.
Great one, Patty. Yep. What else? Who else? the best way for us to honor Tony, by the way, is to give him a couple of ahas. Craig, I know you've got one.
I'm just
You
soaking
always
it
have.
all in. I'm just soaking it all in.
I'll tell you.
I
So
have.
I'll leave you all with one question.
Oh,
to ask
Karen.
you.
Karen had
Okay.
one, Tony.
Okay, Karen?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Mine is, it's all about mindset. Whenever I came in today, I was thinking, oh, it's just kind of overwhelmed and what do I need to do? Like I haven't done this before. And really, I need to go back to basics. It's all about mindset. Go show up every day, do what I need to do every day. And this was a good reminder for me because I was feeling kind of overwhelmed by things. And, you know, real estate's simple, but it's not easy. You got to show up every day.
Yep.
Do what you
Yep.
got to do.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
thank
And
you
then
for that.
Great. And that's a great comment of going back to the fundamentals. Team leaders, don't ever talk to your people about going back to the basics.
Yeah.
They don't like the word basics. They like the fundamentals. They don't like the word. Remember when Diana says it's all about words?
Yeah.
When you talk, coaches, whenever you talk to people about going back to the basics, they're going, oh, I'm not going back to the big. Go back to the fundamentals.
Yeah. It's so good.
Tony, I don't know if this was on your Instagram or something, but someone shared last week, this is an aha, and you kind of mentioned at the beginning of this call was, you know, no one's talking about the 60% of the market that's still there. And that's what we need to be focused on. And that was a big aha for me. I was like sharing that little snippet of a video like all over Instagram and got a lot of positive responses back. So that was my aha. And then Linda McKissick said at one of my first trainings 10 years ago, and it stuck with me ever since. Is she said, it doesn't matter if it's a good market, if it's a bad market. What matters is you sell the number of homes that you need to sell and want to sell in that market.
So true.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Tony, thank you so much. This is great. I want to
pleasure.
be respectful of your time. Thank you guys.
Great.
I don't know about you all. I'm going to make a video right now to talk about equity. So
Thank you, Tony.
thank
Thanks,
you,
Tony.
Tony.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for the
Thanks,
opportunity.
guys. Have
Okay,
a
see
great
you later.
day.
Okay, bye-bye.
See ya.